with you guys today, DIJONAI Carrington. After clotheslining Sophie Cunningham, running into the locker room, screaming, "That's white privilege!" Then tweeting 8/23, threatening Sophie Cunningham and the Indiana Fever, DIJONAI Carrington now comes out and clarifies what she means when she says white privilege for the Indiana Fever.
So with 2 minutes left in the first quarter, DIJONAI Carrington just slapped the dog shit out of Sophie Cunningham. Sophie pops up, she's obviously upset. DIJONAI says, "Try me." And then look at Stephanie White. Look at her face. Look. It's mad as shit. Now, number one, this is obviously a flagrant 2. It just is. By the letter of the law, you gotta call a flagrant 2. We all know these terms.
That girl needs to be thrown out the league. She's not even a good enough player to be bringing this type of drama. She needs to be thrown.
Welcome back to the Buzzer Update. I hope you will love this great news video that I have for you today. I'll keep you amused while I break down the entire story, so stick with me until the very end. So let's dive right into the video without wasting any time. After being expelled from a game, DIJONAI Carrington believed that the internet needed a lesson. 2 phrases taken directly from the locker room. Nor an explanation, nor an apology. White privilege. She continues to defend that post, recant it, explain it, and argue with nearly everyone who dares to disagree with it days after. This situation has become quite chaotic. It might be the strangest reaction we've heard from a WNBA player this season, to be honest. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the content. It may surprise you to learn that almost 90% of viewers have not yet subscribed. Even though it only takes a second and is free, it means the world to us. Have you already subscribed? Fantastic. I sincerely appreciate your help. Let's return to the video now.
Sophie Cunningham, otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham. And as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world. She'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values. And
throughout the entire season, Sophie Cunningham has been one of the more outspoken advocates of her fiery co-worker Caitlin Clark, going on record multiple times to assert that neither the league nor the officials do enough to protect Clark from the physical violence she faces every night. She has openly claimed that several teams have talked about attempting to teach Clark what the W really is in their own locker rooms, and she has critiqued specific performances and individuals. It doesn't exactly make you popular in the league to talk like that. Moreover, Cunningham has never really disguised her awareness of it.
Ew! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just like don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro. This league, bro. White privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You Stone Cold Steve Austin clotheslined her ass. What about that is white privilege? The WNBA stays undefeated. It truly does. They can't get out of their own way.
This history is significant because it explains why so many people believe there was more going on than a difficult basketball play when they witnessed this specific foul. Cunningham has established herself as one of the athletes who isn't afraid to speak out about Clark's treatment on the court. And now it's she who was hit in the face by a forearm that was bleeding. The moment the expulsion took place, the entire situation's optics almost dictated themselves. Carrington may or may not have intended any of that subtext.
Beyond concerning at this point how far from the plot we have actually gotten. And when I say the plot, I mean the basketball. How far from the game of basketball we have spiraled. When we're talking about the WNBA, we used to joke, it's like, 0 days without drama in the WNBA. This league is living up to it at a rate and a level of concern that we haven't ever had. With all the discussion.
Craziness going on in the WNBA. DIJONAI Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouled her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DIJONAI, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all...
There are others who have noticed the tension beside Cunningham. Earlier this year, veteran broadcaster Dick Vitale shared his thoughts when Clark was only placed as the 9th best guard in a league-wide player vote. He predicted that players would soon discover how much Clark has helped them all financially and described the result as sheer jealousy. That comment took on a strange importance after the Carrington incident, since it was another instance of a player who had a close relationship with Clark and Cunningham being physically disciplined. Furthermore, a former teammate publicly cheers it, and instead of the league as a whole expressing sympathy, the head coach tactfully defends the aggressor. It is hard not to wonder if Vitale was right when you see that pattern recur.
Right across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is
wind up deserve.
And just getting her out of the
Lucky
way.
It wasn't a right hook.
Make no mistake about it, Carrington targeted Cunningham. She targeted her because of her political stances. She targeted Cunningham because of the praises that she keeps receiving. She targeted her with a dirty shot that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And then after getting ejected, she runs to the locker room to play the fucking victim card. Like she didn't try to just take off Cunningham's head in 4K. Like we all didn't just watch it happen. That is not competition. That is a grown woman swinging on someone who she disagrees with and then screaming racism when she gets held accountable for it. DIJONAI Carrington needs to be held responsible, and I'm not talking about just getting ejected from the game.
After watching the action, it becomes clear that this is what actually happened on the court. Sophie Cunningham was sprinting down the court, completely open, and heading up for what should have been an easy layup during a fast break. Rather than challenge the shot, DIJONAI Carrington pursued the action from behind and used her forearm to strike Cunningham in the face and neck. Cunningham hit the floor hard. No one talked about the bucket even after the ball got inside. Play was then stopped. Officials went to the monitor and raised the call to a flagrant 2, which, according to WNBA rules, automatically results in expulsion. You don't have to argue. For a blatant 2, wind up, impact, follow through, substantial injury risk, and player vulnerability. The checklist is what it is. And this play checked every single box.
Like the way Sophie Cunningham came down on her leg, she could have been injured. So they said, yo, get out of here, dog. Get out of here. Then, I don't know if y'all were looking at her lips. She was talking about, try me. Try me. Yo, you already tried Sophie? You got all the samples of Sophie. You talking about try me. What are you talking about? This lady is unhinged right now, man. This is crazy work. And it makes you wonder. It's like, dog, you were the best player for the Sky at this moment. Look how she landed on the leg. Oh my goodness. Like, you were the best player for the Sky, and you decided to do this? You weren't even thinking about the game. You was thinking about some kind of revenge or something. Somebody sent you on a mission. You were on a mission, dog. I don't know what you had going on here, but DIJONAI, this is unacceptable. Disrespectful, disgusting, and I'm glad they got you up out of there.
Cunningham immediately leaped to her feet, an angry expression on her face. She went straight into Carrington's area before authorities and teammates separated them. It's crucial to remember that this league responds to reactions in different ways depending on who is responding. After the game, the head of the officiating staff actually said that Cunningham was not disciplined for her response because it was deemed suitable given the gravity of the effect she had just made. As a result, Even the referees at the time effectively admitted in their own words that what had happened to her was serious enough to make her feel angry.
Photo from the Flagrant 2 on DIJONAI Carrington against Sophie Cunningham, where she proceeded to go into the locker room and tweet white privilege after being thrown out of the game. I'm not going to comment on that situation, but I will say this. This is a Flagrant 2. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, don't matter. This is a Flagrant. I mean, she clotheslined her. What more do you want? So, this looks very bad. It just shows that the WNBA is nowhere near where they need to be professionally. Because again, this is a clothesline. It's flagrant.
That's why everything Carrington said afterward is so confusing. If the umpires themselves assert that the contact was severe and unnecessary, and that Cunningham's reaction to being struck in the face was perfectly understandable, then where does race fit into this conversation? No one improved it, regardless of who threw or received the foul. While making a shot, a player got smacked across the head and neck. They revised it, and all players in that league are bound by it, regardless of their identity.
Even mention the fact that she said white privilege. That is the story. The story isn't that she got kicked out. It's that she tweeted out white privilege as though because Sophie Cunningham is white, somehow that's why she got kicked out. They go on to defend her, the story, the narrative that she's not a dirty player. She makes plays like this all the time. I put together a little clip of DIJONai Carrington, who is definitely one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA. I don't know if we can roll it, but she's taken her long fingernails. She's scratched Caitlin Clark's eyes out. She's had multiple instances of chasing people down from behind, trying the same SWAT and smashing them in the head and causing mini fights. She pulled another girl's hair. I don't know if we'll get to that clip in a second when she's falling. Totally dirty play. This is not a skin color thing. She has a history of making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege.
Instead of just accepting the rejection and moving on, Carrington went straight to her Threads account and posted white privilege, tagging the Indiana Fever directly beneath it. Those two phrases were the only explanation available at the time, and anyone on the internet could interpret them any way they chose. There is no other way to understand that timing, so of course everyone viewed it the same way. White privilege appears on her website, tagging the same team, just minutes after she was ejected for hitting a white player in the face. Making the connection doesn't need genius, and practically everyone in the sports industry did so immediately.
Paying attention to what DIJONai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DIJONai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DIJONai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood.
At that point, Emmanuel AKO took over, and to be honest, he performed without holding back. He clarified that this had nothing to do with race and just had to do with basketball rules. He underlined that the foul was called the way it was because Carrington hit Cunningham in the head, drew blood, and made no real contact with the basketball. He said, "We've seen white players get away with fouls like that before, and we've seen black players get away with fouls like that before, too." This suggests that skin race had no bearing on this specific call. AKO's story didn't stop there. He called the whole thing uneducated and stupid, powerful language that effectively conveyed the feelings of numerous experts and spectators as they saw everything unfold in real time. What made AKO's breakdown so challenging was that he didn't simply say that Carrington was wrong. He effectively caught her in real time, showing how she seemed to be reacting emotionally in the heat of the moment and then trying to defend it when the criticism started to stream in. He correctly pointed out that every potential combination of players in this league gets a lot of serious fouls. None of the other ones are ever referred to as white on white, black on black, white on black, or black on white. When this player was singled out at the exact moment of her dismissal, it would never read as anything other than what everyone presumed, identifying the player's team and calling it white privilege. This is where things truly got out of hand, because Carrington reacted to AKO in a way that made the situation even more confusing rather than taking the criticism personally. She said, "I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. You took that for granted. Try applying your critical thinking skills. I know you were a psychology student. In addition, I am by no means ignorant or naive when it comes to discussing white privilege. Look into that one. To learn more about this specific subject, I went to one of the finest institutions. I would never use the term as a rhetorical device without enough evidence because of its historical and social significance." She is essentially asserting that no one was supposed to draw any connection between the white privilege she displayed beneath a video of herself being disqualified for fouling a white player and naming the player's team. What exactly was the post about if it wasn't about the foul? Is the component that just doesn't make sense? Shortly after leaving the floor after the review and dismissal, she tagged the team of the player she had just fouled and posted it. The timing alone tells the story. Furthermore, what everyone witnessing the scene saw with their own eyes cannot be changed by any talk about critical thinking skills.
As though you discovered the moon. You can't act as though you are the genius in a room and everybody else is idiotic. What I mean by that is, if you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement, white privilege, when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically about. You uttered a phrase, white privilege, of which is both incredibly inflammatory and also a very volatile word, but you didn't give us any context. So now we, as the interpreter, since you posted it publicly on Threads for the world to see, we, the interpreter, now have to try to figure out what exactly were you talking about. Well, common sense would deduce that you were talking about fouling a white individual and getting ejected for fouling that white individual. Now, as I said on social media and I will say in real life, if that is not what you were talking about implying, then that's on me. I will stand down and I will stand corrected. But the last thing I must again reiterate, we live in a speaker-oriented country. Speaker-oriented, receiver-oriented. Speaker-oriented country. It is on you, the speaker, to be clear, to be direct, and to be obvious with what you are speaking about. It is not on the receiver, the reader.
AKO was clearly not buying the trek back either. He basically responded, "Fine," in his caustic social media retort. "I'll stand corrected if you claim that there was no connection between the two items." But since America is a speaker-oriented country, it was her duty to be clear from the beginning instead of leaving two unclear concepts for millions of people to comprehend. And in fact, that's the primary problem with the entire narrative. You can't say something as serious as white privilege after a controversial ejection, name the particular team involved, and then take offense when people assume it was about the ejection. That does not imply that individuals are assuming the wrong things. Individuals were reading exactly what was displayed to them.
This, and I know it's a joke. Love a trans foul. This is essentially celebrating a player getting clobbered. You are on TV. You are. Not these other people online. You are. You were on TV basically saying Caitlin Clark was soft for taking a fist to the neck from Alyssa Thomas. You are. You got opportunities because of this organization. You got opportunities because of the like Caitlin Clark brought on your head. You did. You benefited from it. You joined the Indiana Fever for those benefits. You took those benefits. You became more notorious. And as soon as you leave, you rejoin the sisterhood, then it's against Caitlin Clark. And you are celebrating a player getting...
At this point, the story becomes even more odd because Carrington's voice wasn't the only one endorsing it. Sydney Carlson, who recently played with Cunningham on the Fever, responded to the foul by posting that she thought it was wonderful. In the locker room, a former teammate saw Cunningham hit across the face and neck with enough force to draw blood. And instead of worrying about it, she is publicly praising it. That clarifies all you need to know about how divisive Sophie Cunningham and the entire Music Fever situation have become in this league. This noise is no longer solely coming from rival supporters. This comes from people who used to sit in the same locker room.
I don't think that DIJONAI intentionally came out to get her across the neck like she did, but it did happen, and I thought it was the right call. But, you know, one of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And so I don't oppose the hard foul. But I also don't think that she intentionally.
As you might expect, Stephanie White, the head coach of the Fever and Cunningham's personal coach, didn't exactly stand up for her player. White later told reporters that while she didn't think Carrington intentionally went for the neck, she didn't mind the hard foul. No one should anticipate an easy layup against her, she adding that Carrington was only competing. Hearing it from the coach of a man who was just hit in the face with enough force to induce bleeding is strange. These two players are more responsible than anybody else in the WNBA right now for the league's extraordinary increase in media attention, ticket sales, and viewership. Once half-empty arenas start to sell out, people want to see them play. Therefore, networks are scheduling their games to fit the music. But there have been many similar incidents this season where players, and even coaches, seem almost prepared to thwart that momentum rather than protect it. Whether it's through cheap shots, harsh fouls, or cheers from the crowd when one of them gets hurt.
Dragged. She's been called every name but a child of God. Coaches have come out and spoken against her. Fans have come out in the name of calling Sophie Cunningham anti-trans and transphobic. It's not far-fetched to say that the league itself in totality does not like Sophie Cunningham. And yet, after intentionally grabbing Sophie Cunningham around her neck and getting ejected for that, DIJONAI runs to Twitter to say the reason why she was ejected was because of the white privilege Sophie Cunningham, a white, straight female, carries in a basically 80% black, almost 90% LGBTQ-led league. Oh yeah, that's where Sophie Cunningham is getting her white privilege, in this WNBA minstrel show of a freaking basketball league. That's where her white privilege is starting to show. DIJONAI Carrington, you're a fucking joke. You went up thinking that you were going to get the ball. You knew that you weren't anywhere near getting the ball. And so while you were up in the air, you figured this was your chance to grab her, Sophie Cunningham, around her neck and bring her down by...
It's an odd dynamic when you really think about it. In a number of cases, the players who seem to be most against Clark and Cunningham are also the ones who stand to benefit the most monetarily from their contributions to this league. Bigger television agreements, bigger audiences, and more salaries. It's all mostly due to the attention these two specific players attract. Even still, some of the league's reaction is more resentment than gratitude. Carrington's foul, White's first post, Carlson's celebration of the hit, White's tactful defense of her own player's aggression, and her lengthy back and forth with AKO are all equally important. No matter how many words are written to make it seem as if the ejection never happened in the first place, race was never taken into account. Carrington may talk endlessly about prestigious universities and critical thinking skills, but the timing of her first post did the talking long before her explanation showed up. Because what everyone has already seen in real time is rarely reversed by post-event explanations.
One of your players who commits a clear flagrant 2 and then tweets white privilege right after she goes to the locker room. You can't then cry that this is being talked about in racial terms in a culture. She started that. This is a basketball play. The second you go white privilege, and they are talking about it on these telecasts without mentioning what she tweeted. Oh, they're turning into a culture war, turning into a race war. This is our league. Don't let conservatives or the right hijack it. Your player tweeted white privilege, and it had...
The WNBA is currently faced with the dilemma of managing a culture in the locker room where some of the players who profited from it appeared ready to rebel against the two personalities driving it, while also celebrating the biggest rise in viewership the league has ever seen. Carrington was expelled without incident. The review process went according to schedule, and the officiating was done correctly. After the whistle, the post, the retreat, the fight with AKO, and the cheer from a former Fever teammate. What happened? This is the part of the story that won't end anytime soon. And it's the part that says far more about this league's current situation than any single serious transgression in history.